Look at me, ALICIA. Look at me. You let a man kill your son. And not only did you let him kill him, you let him torture, you let him suffer for not a day, not a week. You let him suffer for months. You let a man torture and kill your little boy.
Lattie McGee was only 4 when his life would end. His prison was a dark closet in his family's Southside Chicago apartment, where he often was hung upside down, bound, and gagged for hours. Lattie's case is one of the worst cases of child abuse ever recorded. This is the only known picture taken of Lattie. Because this case is so horrific, I must give a warning. Viewer discretion is advised. As you guys know, if you watch my channel, I try to tell victim stories that are rarely told. Not only to bring awareness to abuse, but also because their lives do not need to be forgotten. Lattie's life is one of those stories that should never, ever be forgotten. Hello, my name is Holly. Welcome to the Murder She Shed. Before you go, just make sure you hit the subscribe button in order to come back and visit me right here at the Murder She Shed. We are a true crime family that's almost grown to 4,000, and we would love to have you join us here weekly. I would love it. I would simply love it. You're going to hear lots of sawing in the background. I apologize. I'm working on my house, and they're sawing, and men are singing. Every once in a while, I hear Spanish being sung. Yeah, they're having a good time out there. I also occasionally smell a little wacky weed. So they're having a really, really good time out there. So, sorry about that. ALICIA Abraham gave birth to Lattie McGee on December 29, 1982. He was named after his father, Lattie McGee Sr. Lattie had an older brother named Cornelius. Cornelius was 2 when Lattie was born. There were also 2 other siblings in the family. Lattie liked to play with his toy cars, dance with his brother, watch cartoons, and romp in the mud outside when the weather was warm. Just a typical boy. When Lattie was 2 and Cornelius was 4, DHS was called on the mother, ALICIA, for neglecting her children. ALICIA was given a year of counseling, and then they closed a case against her. Finished. She's fine. Everything's okay. But unfortunately, that was not true. Soon after, ALICIA and her children became homeless and were living in a shelter when she met a man who would become her new boyfriend, Johnny Campbell. Johnny was 40 and ALICIA was 28 when they met. Johnny was also living in the homeless shelter too. Johnny, who had worked for U.S. Steel for 16 years, had recently lost his job because of alcohol and drug abuse. After they lived in the shelter for a couple of months in April of 1997, Johnny was able to find an apartment in Chicago at 2422 East 74th Street. He then asked ALICIA to move in with him with her 4 children. Lattie was 4 and Cornelius was 6 at this point when they moved into Johnny's apartment. The abuse would quickly start because Johnny accused the 2 little brothers of being homosexual and claimed they had sex with each other. These little boys who at 4 and 6 didn't even know what sex was or know anything about being homosexual. Johnny claimed that Lattie had a very feminine voice. A little boy had just learned how to form sentences and talk. Your voice don't change when you're 4 years old. I don't know what he was thinking. Little kids' boys have soft voices until their voice changes. That's not unusual. The brothers loved to turn up music and dance together, and according to good old Johnny, this was gay behavior too. Johnny began to beat them in order to make men out of them. ALICIA, their mother, let him. I don't know why I always get more angry at the mother for letting it happen. I suppose because I am a mother that cannot understand how any man could come before your children. I don't get it. I will never get it. I would never stay with a man that would do what he's fixing to do to these children. It's just disturbing that a woman would. I don't care if I got killed getting out of the situation. It's better than staying in it. Just leave. Just leave. Don't let someone do this to your children. It makes me so angry. I'm just angry. Calm down, Holly. Calm down. Get on with your story. Let's get on with it. I'm just going to try to control my blood pressure right now. Johnny would hit the boys with his fist and stick needles, sewing needles, in their chest and buttocks and make them stand in the corner if they did not admit to the behavior that they were doing to each other. Throughout this period, the children's crying was heard by neighbors on almost a daily basis, who also heard a man yelling at the children to shut up and stop crying. It is not made clear why neighbors heard this did not call authorities, or if they did. I couldn't find anything about whether they were turned into DHS again, so I can't tell you that part of the story. I believe the other two siblings were not abused like Cornelius and Lattie were, but they were neglected. In late June, Johnny beat Cornelius with a belt, and when Cornelius attempted to escape, Johnny then broke Cornelius's tooth by striking him. Then sometime in July, Johnny hit Cornelius' hand with a brush, and as a result of this blow, Cornelius could not close his hand properly. He never received any medical attention for this injury. Cornelius was also scalded with hot water as punishment. During this time, Lattie was also suffering constant abuse. On numerous occasions, Johnny would use a tree limb to beat Lattie. One day, Johnny had Lattie in the bathroom and was just yanking him back and forth. And as a result, his collarbone popped out in Lattie's back. He then hit Lattie again in an attempt to make it go back in place, and then the bone popped out in front of Lattie's body. As a result, a large lump developed in Lattie's throat, and his throat became very swollen. After that time, Lattie could not swallow food or water. It looked just as if there were teeth marks on his gums. It's awful. During this whole summer, both boys who loved playing outside were never allowed to leave the apartment and barely received anything to eat. Cornelius was regularly forced to sleep in the front closet and was beaten by Johnny frequently with switches, extension cords, and belts while he was tied up on a hook in that closet. Lattie was forced to stay in the bedroom closet with no clothes on and newspapers on the floor between 2 and 3 weeks at one period. Johnny would get very angry when Lattie would use the bathroom floor, like he could help it. They wouldn't even let the child out. And he just beat him furiously for this. That's one thing that made him super mad. Cornelius described how he was tied up and hung from his arms in the closet by Johnny for 2 days, during which time his mother was present and seen that happened. He stated that Johnny burned him twice with a lit cigarette while his mother was in the living room watching. Cornelius also stated that his mother was in the living room watching television when Johnny used an iron to burn Lattie's chest and his buttocks. An iron, a clothes iron, guys. Pressed it on there. His mother did nothing to stop the abuse. She had too much to watch on TV, apparently. On at least one occasion, ALICIA held Lattie while Johnny bound him. After tying Lattie up this time, Johnny hung him in the closet on the clothes rack, bending a wire hanger around his wrist to hold him up. At other times, Lattie was hung upside down in the closet while bound, with a wire hanger used, bent up, tied around his ankles, hung upside down. He's also tied to the radiator sometimes. Johnny would later say to officers that he kept Lattie tied up so that he wouldn't pick at the sores on his chest and legs, which were there because of Johnny's abuse. Johnny would also bathe Lattie 2 or 3 times a day because he was afraid that Lattie's wounds were becoming infected, supposedly. I just think it's odd that he was bathing him that much alone. During one of these baths, Lattie screamed that the water was just too hot, but Johnny did not care. As a result of this scalding and Johnny's harsh scrubbing, skin would come off of Lattie's body. Johnny would also frequently beat Lattie in the bathroom. On August 12th, Johnny was holding Lattie and beating him. As a result of this beating, the skin on Lattie's legs was pulled off. On August 13th, ALICIA returned home to find Cornelius standing inside the front closet and Lattie tied up in the bedroom closet. She let them out of the closets to use the bathroom and then put the boys back into the closet. Great mother. ALICIA and her 2 other children proceeded to watch television while Johnny took Lattie into the bathroom and hit him in the head. Johnny then put this scared little boy, who was in so much pain, into the bathtub to wash him and noticed there was a significant amount of pus coming from where Lattie had been poked with those sewing needles. At midnight, August 13th, Johnny gagged Lattie and taped potato peelings to his eyes and put him back in the closet, bound his ankles, and hung him upside down. Lattie was screaming from the most incomprehensible agony imaginable from all the injuries inflicted on him, and his pelvis and collarbone were broken, along with some of his ribs being snapped from the abuse. Through his screams, he pled with Johnny and his mommy that he can't swallow and for help. To no avail. Alicia never thought for a second she should help her baby. Instead, they shoved a rag into his mouth to muffle his cries for mercy and left him there in that dark closet to suffer alone while they got in bed and fell fast asleep without a care in the world. This little boy was hung upside down all night long in that closet. I have this machine, I don't even know what it's called, but you hang upside down to help your back. And I can only stay there a few minutes, and I'm just like, all the blood rush in my head just makes me feel so weird that it's kind of painful. And I'm like, how does this little boy make it all night long like that? Tied up, he can't move, his mouth stuffed with a gag. Can't even imagine going through something like that. And to be 4 years old and to have to go through something like that. Just unimaginable, really. Alicia woke up the next morning to start her normal routine. No, not taking care of the children. She went into the living room and watched The Incredible Hulk on TV. Johnny decided later to let Lattie down out of the closet. Lattie begged for water, and Johnny told him to be a man and get it himself. Lattie tried to walk to get his water, but his little 26-pound skeletal, battered, and broken shell would not allow him to. He was too weak, and he struggled to get to the kitchen. Lattie also urinated on himself, and that, of course, infuriated Johnny. It caused him to go into a rage and spew hate at Lattie. He punched him in the ear. Alicia fixed hot dogs, which she, Johnny, Cornelius, and the other two siblings ate. Lattie still could not eat anything. After Johnny ate, he put Lattie back in the closet with tape on his mouth and potato peels again on his eyes. When Johnny subsequently went out for an hour and a half, Alicia checked on Lattie for a few minutes and then just went back to watching cartoons on television with Lattie still in the closet because apparently she just really loved watching TV. That was more important than any of her children. Johnny returned with a tree limb, which he showed to Alicia, stating that he might use it. He then took Lattie to the bathroom, and Alicia went back to the living room. Of course, she began watching TV. Of course. Johnny would later say, Lattie fell forward and struck his head on the faucet and just went limp while he was bathing him. Johnny thought that Lattie was faking and then hit him hard 7 or 8 times in the head and stomach. At this time, Alicia was sitting in the living room. What do you think she's doing? Of course, watching TV and combing her daughter's hair. Alicia then left the apartment and went to visit her sister, returning about a half hour later. When Alicia came home, she heard Johnny in the bathroom. When she opened the door, she noticed Lattie motionless, with his hands tied draped over the bathtub. Johnny was examining Lattie's bottom, accusing Cornelius of ruining Lattie. This makes me think, although it was never stated, that possibly Johnny was essaying Lattie. I just find it odd how he always gave Lattie's baths and was messing with Lattie when his mother walked in the bathroom. Just kind of weird. Johnny continued to wash Lattie's body for a while and then came out and told Alicia that, well, he's dead. Alicia then called for medical help. That day on August 14, 1997, police and paramedics arrived at the Southside apartment to find little Lattie dead on top of a pile of clothes, dirty clothes, in the bathroom. The officer that was first to arrive would later say, I have never seen anything like that in my life. There were these terrible burns on his ankles. It didn't make sense. Later we found out that the burns were rope burns from when they would hang him upside down in the closet. We lifted his shirt up and his chest. It was totally raw. All of the flesh was gone. He basically had been skinned alive from all the beatings that he had endured. He was wearing blue jeans and a shirt Later it was determined that Johnny and Alicia always kept him naked, but had dressed him after he died before the police had arrived. Authorities asked Alicia what had happened, and she just said that Lattie had fallen down on the playground with all that going on his body. I don't know how she thought she was going to get away with that. Lattie was pronounced dead on arrival at South Shore Hospital. Lattie weighed 26 pounds, the size of a 1-year-old at 4 years old. The pathologist said, "This one I will never forget," after Lattie's autopsy. He said there were so many injuries it was hard to determine actually what had killed him. He had a severe head injury and also pneumonia from being hung upside down. There were several broken ribs. The collarbone was completely detached, not just dislocated. The pathologist said that usually during an autopsy we have to cut the collarbone out. In this case, it had been pulled away from the muscles. We just lifted it out. Also, Lattie had a broken pelvis and burns all over his body. Large bruises, old scars, and bite marks were on both sides of his face. There were also ligature scars on his forearm, wrist, hands, and ankles. There was a massive infection where Lattie had been stuck with needles. The infection had spread to his bloodstream. There was a large abscess the size of a baseball that covered his neck and went onto his chest. His buttocks were burned, and his genitals appeared to be burned and tied. It appeared that there had been a ligature tied around his private, either a string or a rubber band. The pathologist said that the ligature could have been used to prevent Lattie from urinating, regardless of how full his bladder became. The pathologist said Lattie was so malnourished that the lack of food and water could have killed him. Testimony indicated he may have been fed only once a week. Cornelius was also malnourished and had scattered areas of burns over his body, although his burns were not as extensive as Lattie's. He had rope marks on his wrists and ankles, and his left hand was severely and permanently deformed. His left eardrum was perforated. Somehow Cornelius had survived. He watched his brother slowly being killed and was unable to stop the killers. But in court, Cornelius received some revenge when he testified against Johnny and Alicia. Cornelius was only 8 years old when he bravely sat in front of the court and testified. Cornelius, who was now a third grader at Mann Elementary School, stood up several times in the witness box to show Judge Michael Getty the scars on his wrists and shoulders. One scar about the size of a quarter was caused when Johnny held a cigarette to his shoulder. He told the judge everything that had been done to his brother and how his mother had not tried to stop it. Both Johnny and Alicia received life imprisonment without possibility of parole. They also were sentenced to consecutive 30-year prison term for aggravated child abuse. In 2008, Alicia did an interview with Steve Wilkos. She was so cold and showed no regret over her child's murder. Just a cold, sorry, but that's what she was.
Alicia, why are you in prison?
I was convicted of first-degree murder, aggravated battery, and sentenced to natural life without the possibility of parole.
What happened?
Well, I met a guy, which turned out to be my boyfriend. He murdered my son, and I ended up here in the result of it.
So you're saying you didn't murder him?
No.
It was the boyfriend?
Yes.
So you're saying your boyfriend, and how old was your son?
He was 4 years old.
Then how did you end up in prison if he did?
I was at home at the time when it happened.
So you didn't do anything wrong?
Well, the only thing I did wrong was not doing enough to help prevent it.
And what could you have done to prevent it?
Remove me and my kids from the house, from the apartment.
And why didn't you?
I have no idea right now the day is.
No, Alicia. There's no idea. We're talking about your 4-year-old son was murdered.
Yes, he was.
Okay. Did you know your son was going to be killed?
No.
You didn't know?
No.
But you knew something bad was happening?
No.
You didn't know anything bad was going on? So you're telling me you have no reason to be in jail then?
I have no reason to be in jail.
your little boy Lattie,
Yeah.
he was abused for 2.5 months. He was malnourished. He had burn marks on both of his legs, his feet, and ankles from scalding hot water. He had burn marks on his chest. There was only raw skin left on his chest. He had open lacerations on both ankles. He had an open sore on his right side of his head. And he had a broken collarbone. We're talking about a 4-year-old child here. Did you know all these things were going on?
No.
You didn't notice your 4-year-old boy with a chest that was left raw from a beating. You didn't notice a broken collarbone. You didn't notice that he was malnourished. You didn't see burn marks on his legs from scalding hot water, on his feet, on his ankles. You didn't see burn marks on his penis.
No.
Why not? Why not, Alicia?
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
I didn't notice it.
Alicia, I have small children about the age of Lattie when he died. And I see my kids give them baths every night. When I help them go to the potty. And I would certainly know if my little boy had burn marks on his body that was scalded with burning hot water. If he had a broken collarbone. We're not talking about a scratch or a bump here. How, as a mother, did you not know all this was happening over a period of 2.5 months to little Lattie?
I didn't.
Why didn't you do anything to stop the torture to your children, especially to Lattie? You didn't stop it, and he's dead. Why didn't you stop the torture?
Why didn't I stop?
Yeah, why didn't you?
I had no idea what's going on.
No, because you wrote in the confession you knew what was going on, and you just didn't do anything about it. It also says, and on at least one occasion, several days before Lattie's death, you even held poor Lattie's legs while your boyfriend tied them. So you held your son down while your boyfriend tied his legs up. You are guilty of murder by operational law of accountability. Not only did you just stand by and not do anything, you held your son's legs together while your murdering boyfriend tied his legs together. You don't even show any emotion. You don't even care, do you?
I care.
You care that your son's dead.
Yes, I do.
Really? Do you cry at night?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
You do. Was your son hung upside down in a closet by his feet?
I'm not answering that.
Why?
Why? If you already know, then why ask me?
Because I want to know why you did it.
Why I did it.
Oh, well, who did it then? Who did it?
Good question.
Good question. Who did it?
Ask the person that done it.
Who did it? Tell me who did it. I'll go ask him. Was it your boyfriend? Did your boyfriend do it? Your boyfriend, in the confession, you know your boyfriend hung him upside down in a closet. So as a mother, your 4-year-old is hanging upside down in a closet. What the hell were you thinking?
You mean, what was he thinking?
What were you thinking? What does a person think when their 4-year-old's hanging upside down in a closet? I want to know.
There's a lot of things you can think.
Well, give me one thing you were thinking. Give me one thing that you were thinking.
I got him down out of there. That's what I was thinking.
You did.
Yes, I did.
After how long?
After how long?
After how long?
Good question.
Look at me. Look at me. Look at me, Alicia. Look at me. You let a man kill your son. And not only did you let him kill him, you let him torture, you let him suffer for not a day, not a week. You let him suffer for months. You let a man torture and kill your little boy. Say you're sorry to your son.
I already said it.
Say it, and I will walk out of here.
I'm sorry, Lattie.
I don't believe you. You're a sorry excuse for a mother, for a human being. And I do hope that there is a hell and that you rot in it.
I'm glad you feel that way.
After the trial, Cornelius' bio dad, Lattie Sr., gained custody of him. Sadly, his father also neglected him, and at age 12, he was homeless and on his own for 3 months. After 5 more rough years, Cornelius was placed with a pair of loving foster parents. In time, Cornelius grew close to them, and today calls them Mom and Dad. After graduating from high school, he went on to college, which is amazing. In 1999, the YMCA Network for Counseling and Youth Development of Greater Chicagoland presented Cornelius with the first ever Cornelius S. Abraham Award, designed to give hope to children who have suffered from abuse. Cornelius also became close to a reporter named Bob Green during the trial. After the trial, Bob had taken Cornelius, who loved basketball, to a Chicago Bulls game, best day of his life. At the game, he was able to meet Michael Jordan. When he went to accept the Cornelius S. Abraham Award, he asked the reporter, Bob Green, if he would present it to him that night. While presenting the award, Bob said Cornelius has had a more profound effect on my life than I've had on his. He has inspired me from the first moment I met him, and that in many ways he is the reason that on my better days at work, I try to do what I do. That his courage in venturing out into a world that conspired to hurt him and hold him down since he was a little boy, and his determination not to let that stop him from endeavoring to lead a worthy life is as impressive as anything I have ever been privileged to witness, and that he is his little brother's finest legacy. That for anyone who thinks there is no hope in the world, for anyone who thinks that giving up is sometimes the only option, Cornelius is the proof that they are wrong. Cornelius is the proof that hope can overcome anything. That of all the things that have ever happened to me, the fact that he would ask me to be by his side on this night is the highest honor I can ever hope to receive. The award in Cornelius' name is meant to serve as a beacon of hope for children who think there is none, as a sign that even in the darkest nights, they must not forget that the morning will come. So proud of him, he said. Lattie was laid to rest in Burr Oak Cemetery in Illinois with no headstone. Many people in the community came together and provided the funds to pay for Lattie's headstone. Even people from other states contributed to the fund. 3 additional words were added to the headstone by the community because they thought it might have been words that Lattie had never heard before. They were, "You are loved." A poem was wrote for Lattie after his death by Susan Jevons. His name was Lattie Mcgee. I never met him and he never met me. But he touched my life in a profound way when I saw his face on the news one day. His little body was bruised and battered. Every bone in this child was broken or shattered. He was tortured to death at the age of 4 on the south side of Chicago, like a prisoner of war. He was beaten, he was gagged, then hung upside down. He was burned, he was starved, and then he was bound inside a dark closet to hang there and die. For no one heard the little boy cry. No one heard the little boy cry. 30 years to life Johnny Campbell received. He showed no remorse. He never even grieved for the tiny boy named Lattie Mcgee, who died so young and so tragically. If the time ever comes for Johnny to be free, I pray the parole board will look at him and see that no man who tortured a child that way should ever again see the light of day. Let him suffer alone, let him rot in his cell, for what he did to Lattie may burn in hell. Before he takes his last breath, before he can state his case, I hope that he sees Lattie's innocent face. May he look terror in the eyes, may he feel Lattie's pain. May he struggle to survive, but let it be in vain. When the last light goes out before Johnny Campbell dies, may he forever and ever hear Lattie's cries. Forever and ever hear Lattie's cries. May you rest in peace, Lattie. Also hope Cornelius is living a blessed life. He deserves nothing but the best of this world. All right, guys, I'm pretty much done. I gotta get back to staining the logs on my house, but I will leave you with a few bloopers. Just a few bloopers, right? Tell them bye. Tell them we love them. And you're behind the microphone. There you go. Tell them you love them, and you'll see them next week. And have a great weekend. We love y'all. Bye. Simon's out there laying by the four-wheeler while they're sawing. And he will not leave the four-wheeler because he thinks it's time to go for another ride. Doesn't realize it's fixing to rain outside. And he doesn't care. Simon don't care about anybody but Simon. Yeah. If y'all don't know who Simon is, he's my German Shepherd. And he's a pain in the butt. He is a Mr. Mean Pain in the Butt. Mr. Man. That's what I call him. He's got his own personality and always has to have his way. Just like men. Go figure. I think I might have told y'all this story once, but this case was so sad. It needed another story to be told that was funny. Because this was an awful, awful case. So I was like, I'm going to tell him a story. But I think I've told it. So if you heard it before, I apologize. But it's pretty funny. So one day my dad, when I was growing up, we lived in a 2-story home. And so the toilet on the top floor was acting up and stopped. I don't remember what happened, but he had to crawl underneath the floor. And before he did, he told the whole family, me, my brother, my mom, do not flush this toilet. Don't go upstairs to use the bathroom. Use the bathroom downstairs. Do not flush this toilet. So we're like, okay. I'm not very old. I'm just like, that's probably 7 or 8. My brother's like 12 years older than me. So, get out a calculator. That's probably 6. So he was probably 18. Somewhere around there. Yeah, I'm bad at math. Sorry. Anyway, so he said, don't flush it. Don't flush it. I'm going to be under this floor. Do not flush that toilet. And he had taken all the pipes loose under the floor. And he was underneath the pipe. I don't know if he's trying to get... I don't know what he's doing under there exactly. If he's trying... Something was plugged up in there. I don't know. Anyway. A few minutes after this was told to him, and my dad had crawled under the floor, well, my brother decided to go upstairs in the bathroom and take a big old dump. A big old dump. And he flushed. We just heard yelling up under the floor. He's yelling, cussing. Sounded like he even hit his head. I don't know what went on. But we didn't know my brother had taken a dump upstairs. All I seen was my brother shooting down the stairs and out the front door and into his truck so fast that I was like, what in the world's going on? So my dad comes in the house and he is cussing. He's like, where is that boy? Where is that boy? He said, he's done everything to me and now he shit on my head. Oh my God. Me and my mom were like, what in the world? What in the world? I didn't think my brother come back till after my dad was in bed that night. He was too scared to come home. I don't blame him. Laddie liked to play with his toy cars and romp in the mud outside when the weather was warm. I mean, just a typical boy. He was rough and tough and loved the mud. Although I did too as a child, and I'm not a boy. I made mud pies and wrestled in the mud with my cousins. We had a good old time. And there goes this all. Dang it, shit. Johnny was 4 and Alicia he wasn't 4. Johnny was not 4 when she met him. That would be a whole different story. Okay, I'll be telling a pedophile story then. Alicia, their mother, let him. And that saw is really pissing me off. But I want my house built, so I can't complain. I believe the other 2 siblings were not abused like Cornelius and Lattie, and there goes Simon. Let me pause this. It's going to look out the window. Make sure they're not doing nothing they're not supposed to. He likes to watch them real closely. If they get away from our house, he just fiercely starts barking. He's like, you're supposed to be over there working on the house. Get over there now. What are you doing now? What is this called? What is this called? I get licked. I get slobbered on way too much. That's a lot. That was a lot. I love you too, but that's a lot. That's a lot of loving going on. What is this? Oh, God, thanks. I hope you haven't been licking your butt. Right in the mouth. Get down, Bubba. Get down, Bubba. Get down, Bubba. Oh, this dog loves me more than anything.